So today we're going to be going over Forever 21's Fall in Fashion case study. I'm going to cover a brief history of Forever 21, go over their operations, some of their current and past operations, which led to their key problems. The company did try and come up with solutions, but we're going to go over some of their failed solutions. And then I'm going to talk about my recommendations for the company. Forever 21 was founded by a couple that had came to the United States from South Korea. They resided in Los Angeles and they worked odd jobs, being a hairstylist and pumping gas at gas stations to be able to make ends meet. But they soon realized that some of the most wealthy people around them were in the garment business. So they decided to save up around $11,000 and purchase a 900 square foot location and open up a Fashion 21. In their first year's Fashion 21, they earned $700,000 in sales, and they soon changed the name of the company to Forever 21, which leads us into their operations. After seeing how well they did with one location, they soon expanded into Texas, and that location was doing fairly well. So soon after, the company began to open up locations every 6 months. They were opening up a new store, and they then started expanding globally. So they had created themselves as a cheap and trendy brand. It was somewhere where teenage girls and young women could go into the store and find the latest fashions at cheap prices. They had expanded into about 700 plus total locations, that's including globally, and they were expanding really fast. And this is all by 2015. And this graph that's on here is between 2002 and 2019. It shows the up and down relationship that Forever 21 had with its target market, and how popular they were with teen customers compared to competition. So going into their key problems, the company wanted to stay with the latest fashion, so they created relationships with manufacturers in different countries, including China, and the company got garments produced at really low rates, and it led to them having multiple court battles, because what the company would do is take designs right off of the runway and have them produced really, really cheap and then put them right on the racks. And the original designers were beginning to sue Forever 21 for infringement and copying their designs. The company was starting to see an increase in competition. In this graph right here, it shows the U.S. apparel and footwear market between 2015 and 2016. Yes, Forever 21 was doing very well in 2015. It actually was the company's highest in sales that they've ever had. And they had a total amount of sales of $4.4 billion that year. But the problem is that their competition was creeping up on them fairly quickly. Zara was a fairly new company, and they had gained a pretty good market share within this year. And H&M was sneaking up right up on Forever 21 in their market share. And this company, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but they were only 1 year old, and they were expanding at a faster rate than Forever 21 was. So the company was realizing that competition was a problem in 2000. This is in 2015 and 16. So I'm going to go back. The inability to obtain online sales was aiding to their problem with competition. Their competition was coming in at a fast rate, knowing how to gain online sales and online customers. But Forever 21 hadn't really done any research on online sales. They were pretty late in the market with even opening up a website. The company was being accused of providing false sales data to manufacturers. A China manufacturer accused the company of providing numbers to them so that they would continue to produce garments for them. And landlords across the United States were saying that the company was also providing false sales data to them in order to keep their fairly large locations. So that goes back to, let me talk about when they were expanding. The company decided that when they were expanding, they wanted the largest locations. They wanted the largest locations in whatever mall and whatever city and state that they were going to. They also had poor quality garments. They were starting to gain a lot of attention for having very cheap garments that would rip apart fairly quickly, and also gaining a lot of attention for not having garments that fit correctly. And all of these key problems led to the company eventually having to file for bankruptcy in September of 2019. So let's talk about the company's failed solutions. Opening up more location was a failed solution. In 2015, when the company noticed that they were gaining a lot of competition, they decided that a way to fix this problem would be to open up about 300 more locations. So they only had about 400 at the time, which then boosted them into around 700, a little over 700 locations. They had multiple vendors. They owed multiple vendors, but were continuing to reach out and expand with vendors, which was a problem. Their marketing strategy, not only did they fail with their online marketing strategy, but their in-store marketing strategy was not doing so well. The company really focused on trying to produce garments that were trendy instead of producing how the products would be presented in stores. They began to receive a lot of attention for having junky and cluttered stores, and they downsized the company shortly after 2015. In 2017, they closed a good bit of locations, taking them down to right at 400 locations again, and they still are currently closing locations. This information on the side I found on Forbes, but it shows that sales in 2009, at the end of 2019 for Forever 21, was only $2.7 billion. The company is a private company, so a lot of their information is not available. And as I said, a lot of landlords and manufacturers accuse the company of providing false information. So how accurate information is, I'm not sure. No one is sure, but their total revenue for 2019 was only $2.7 billion compared to 2015 at $4.4 billion. That is a huge decrease. So I'm going to get into my recommendations for the company. I believe the company should start with online sales, and I especially feel like that now, dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, people aren't able to go into locations, and they should also use this time to continue to close locations that were not doing well. Starting with globally, I remember reading an article that stated that in some countries they didn't do enough market research to even know that stores would be closed on Sundays in certain countries for religious reasons, and they went into these countries and had their stores opening on Sundays, which was very disrespectful, which actually, coming into the country, it made people not want to shop there because they felt it was disrespectful. They also didn't pay attention to how shoppers purchase their garments in certain countries. Some places they purchase winter garments at a much earlier time than they do in other places. So say the United States, they would put out fall and winter starting in August, but in other countries it would already begin. And in the United States in August, it's already getting cool, but they would still be marketing summer and spring clothing. So getting back to starting with online sales, the company should really focus on increasing the online appearance, and that can start with social media presence. The company did write in a press release that they would be increasing their social media presence, and their new CEO, who just came into the position, I believe in January, has a history of working in online sales. So I believe that was a great move for the company. Locate new and better vendors. So in my paper, I talked about that the company should give new designers an opportunity so that the company itself would be coming up with original designs instead of using its history using what the company had did in the past of copying other designers' ideas at a cheaper rate. So just hiring its own designers, giving people an opportunity, and focus on neglected market research. So I did speak about the company needing to continue to downsize, but while downsizing, they need to really pay attention to the markets that they're in and choose which markets they would be downsizing carefully, and fix global operations. If the company does decide to stay in some global international countries, then they should repair those relationships in those countries. And I believe that going into a smaller store location is important for the company. They wanted to brand themselves as the biggest in any mall that they resided in, and that ultimately led to them having financial problems and marketing problems because they didn't know how to cover that space in their marketing initiatives. So smaller store locations is important, and also downsizing the number of garments that they have in a store would help with the reputation that they've built of being cluttered and junky. This is my sources, and that is all.